welcome to the 40k Fireside podcast, where we discuss everything to do with competitive Warhammer 40k with your hosts Vik VJ and David Gaylord.
Alright, welcome everyone. Hope everyone's having a good December. Hope you've got your advent calendars going, especially the Warhammer one, as we've been ripping through the detachments, all the new ones, which have been really exciting. I've been really enjoying them. I've had a chance to play one of them as well, so I'll give you my thoughts on that. But today we're going to be going through the Warrior Bioform Onslaught, which is the new Tyranid Grotmus detachment. Before I jump to that, I have played a game with the Dark Angels detachment, and I haven't played a game with the Death Guard detachment. I was playing just a regular kind of 15 Deathwing Knights, couple of Ballistas, etc. build, 3 Invader ATVs, and I found the Dark Angels detachment to be, I would say, substantially worse than the existing Gladius Dark Angels detachment. Just like regular Space Marines, where you get combat doctrines and then you get the Gladius detachment. I found that the Ravenwing and Deathwing components of the detachment rule to be very, very bad. Quite situational, and the payoff not really being... the payoff is... It's situational to use and hard to set up, and the payoff is almost just not better than rolling a 2+2 advance to get +2 to charge anyway. Situationally, although you could charge with +2 from Deep Strike. The Heroic within 6 I found to be quite good, but you're sacrificing so many great assets to make that happen. For example, just putting a unit into advance and charge in your command phase, or giving a unit fall back and charge, giving a tank advance and shoot, all that flexibility, then the reactive move on top of that. So I think that one isn't as powerful. That's definitely the weakest of the 3, I think, so far. And then the Death Guard one looks to be probably the best one printed so far, but Death Guard already have a great detachment, so it's going to be hard to mess with that one. So I was kind of excited to see what the Tyranid one would be, and I guess reasonably pleasantly surprised. It is a warrior-based detachment, as I'm sure you know by now. I have a pretty large collection of Tyranids. It's my, dare I say, maybe my favorite army of all time. It's definitely my favorite army as a kid, but I've probably fallen in love with Guard more as I've played it. But it's got a very special home in my heart. Although I haven't really played it very, very much in 10th edition in a tournament, I have played it kind of in practice sessions, probably 20 or 30 games or so. Probably more than that. So I was excited to see what this detachment was going to bring us. Have a cup of coffee before we start. Alrighty, let's get into it. So, the detachment rule. Okay. Tyranid Warriors and Winged Tyranid Prime units from your army have the 5-up invulnerable save. Okay. So, a couple of key things here. Winged Tyranid Prime units have a 5-up invulnerable save, which means that you can get a 5-up invulnerable save on a Gargoyle unit. And I'm going to double check that right now. Yeah, because a Winged Tyranid Prime can join Gargoyles. So, interesting. But more importantly, you get 5-up invuln save on Warriors. This is quite good because typically Warriors' weakest points were the fact that they had a 4-up 4-up base armor save, which means that you could kind of shred through them pretty fast. Now, they have a decently, they have decent toughness, at toughness 5, and 3 wounds, which is a nice place to be in OC2 base. Although they do move 6 in this edition as opposed to 8 in the previous edition. So I would say this is a pretty good start here on the detachment rule already. 5-up invuln save is basically what you're going to be on the whole time, and it means that a lot of the times you would be, for example, taking a 6-up against AP3, for example, if you're in cover, or, taking 6-ups against AP2 if you're not in cover, very commonly, or taking 6-ups against AP2 in combat. That means that you're going to be saving twice as many saves as you were previously. Okay, then, this keyword detachment rule down here is saying that Tyranid Warriors with ranged weapons, Tyranid Warriors with melee weapons gain the Tyranid Warriors kind of keyword, because they don't have that at the moment, and they gain the battle line keyword. And while such a unit is not battle shocked, you get an OC of 3. It's going to be pretty hard to be battle shocked because they are Synapse as well, so they are always considered within Synapse, so they're rolling 3d6 on any leadership test they take as well. OC 3 is a nice breakpoint. That means getting 3 warriors on something, or even just 1 warrior, so to speak, onto one objective with OC3 can usually tie or remove your opponent's control of it. Okay, cool. So I think all round, Detachment rule wise, probably a B plus. It's not an A or an S tier detachment. I think the Death Guard one, for example, that's been printed so far is probably a little bit better. But all in all, because that affects basically their entire army, where this only affects Tyranid Warriors. But all in all, Tyranid Warriors for a thematic build around, I think that's quite a good buff. It definitely this OC3 part's not really needed, but it definitely hits great on the 5-up and bond save. Alrighty, on to the enhancements. Okay, I'm gonna call the enhancement suite, if you want to take it away with anything, as very generic. As I said, it's a pretty bland suite of enhancements. Some things that perhaps Tyranids don't really need given their current playstyle. The Nero Tyrant joining Warriors could possibly be a good play, and that's the enhancement that I've got at 8 minus. Basically, Synaptic Tyrant, 10 points. Nero Tyrant, you can join a Warriors unit. So it's nice because this is just a 10-point upgrade. If it was any more than 10, that'd be a bit, pushing it a bit far. But it gives you a lot of nice, potential plays here. I'll give you a little bit of a refresher as to what the Nero Tyrant joining Warriors would allow you to do. Basically, when it's leading unit, you get +1 to hit, which is good. And then on top of that, if the target's battle shock that you're attacking, +1 to wound. And that's in combat and shooting as well. So that's nice. And then on top of that, the Nero Tyrant does have like a good flamer and, is kind of toughness 8, movement 6, 4-up and run save. But it's OC3 as well. So pretty decent there. And it has the monster keyword. I wonder how that interacts with if you join a Nero Tyrant to Warriors, do you get to shoot into combat or out of combat because you have big guns never tie? I have to check that up. I'm unsure if they ruled that recently. If you know, let me know down in the comments, because you could do that with zone throws previously, for example. It's worth noting that the Nero Tyrant is just a regular character, so you could run him for 105 points, and you could run multiple of them if you wanted to have multiple flamers and get +1 to hit on multiple of your warrior groups. Not terrible, and he kind of competes against the Wing Tyranid Prime, for example, in that slot. Okay, on to the next attachment. Next enhancement. Basically 20 points, Wing Tyranid Prime, so it is locked to them as well. Each time a model in the bearer's unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. So for 20 points, for 80 points, basically, you can get a Wing Tyranid Prime, because I think Wing Tyranid Prime is a 65. So for 85 points, you can get a Wing Tyranid Prime, which gives +1 to hit and sustain 1. And I guess when it's done, it has a 4-up to attack back. That's a terrible trait. But it does move 12. So it's going to extend your threat range by quite a bit there. I'll give this a B. It might turn out that this is good, and if you wanted to get +1 to hit on multiple things, this might be a cheap option for doing that. Because as you'll see in the list that I'm showing later, the Tyranid Warrior, the ranged Tyranid Warrior is very clearly, I think, the better of all the units. Sensory Assimilation. Wing Tyranid Prime model again. Each time the attack targets the bearer's unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. Pretty bad for 20 points. I would have loved to have seen this at 10 points, and then you'd probably take it. But -1 to hit in a meta which is reasonably shooting orientated, and your warriors have quite large bases and footprints, you're going to be expecting to get shot most of the time. That's where you're going to take most of your damage. You could just run a Venom Throat, which could affect multiple units of your army instead. Elevated Might. Now, this is the only Tyranid model only. The bearer's unit is eligible to declare a charge in turn in which it advanced. Maybe there's something good here, but 30 points is a lot for advance and charge. Obviously, advance and charge is powerful, but at the same time, it doesn't give you advance and shoot. So if you're running Tyranid Range Warriors, maybe that's not that synergistic. So the enhancement suite, I would say, not incredible here. The Synaptic Tyrant enhancement, I think, is quite decent, mainly because you want to play a Nero Tyrant anyway, because you're probably playing a primary control denial strategy with some shooting back end. And then on top of that, just the ability to attach it to a warrior for 10 points, if you're going to use it anyway, might be quite good. All right, stratagems. I think overall, yeah, a good all-round suite of stratagems. I wouldn't say that there's any misses in here, which is quite strong. However, when we evaluate an army, and particularly when I evaluate armies, usually the stratagem suites is one extremely good stratagem and then another good stratagem, and then the 4 don't really matter. However, there are some, and that's typically the strongest combination, right? One stratagem you're just spamming and doing a build around for, then one that's just pretty good that you can use a lot of the time, like Armor Contempt maybe, and then just a bunch of situational things that might be good every once in a while. Tyranids, in this detachment, at least I think they've done well in terms of a couple of things here. They've made the stratagems more interesting. They haven't just printed bland copy and paste 3-inch deep strike, for example. They've got one of those with the synaptic micronodes that we can see on the right here. But for a large part, it looks like they've pushed the design space here a little bit, which I quite like. So if we take a look around, we're going to see that there's no misses here, which is good because a lot of them are 1 CP as well. I think all of them might be 1 CP. All right, there's a bit of nuance in here though. Synaptic amplification, your shooting phase or the fight phase. So you can use it in your opponent's fight phase, for example. One Tyranid unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot or fight, so you use it when you're activating. If that unit is a Tyranid Warrior unit, you can select an additional endless multitude unit within 6. Okay. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, reroll a wound roll of 1, and if you target your Tyranid Warrior unit, reroll a hit roll of 1. So if you just pay 1 CP, you'll notice it says up to 1 endless multitude unit, so you don't have to pick an endless multitude unit. If you just pay 1 CP, you get rerolls to hit roll. You get rerolls of 1 and to hit and wound. Pretty good stratagem. I think a lot of armies would use that, especially in the big blobs, and in the fight phase, it's pretty good as well. So, if you have a Wing Tyranid Prime with a 20-point upgrade, you're hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, and then you're sustained 1s, and then you're wounding on whatever you want, rerolling 1s. Quite good. This one here is a little bit better, I think. This is in the movement phase. You can target a Tyranid Warrior unit in your army, select one objective marker you control, and you sticky that objective until your opponent's level of control is greater than yours at the end of the phase. Okay, I think there's a bit of clarification here, which they've added at the end of the stratagem, which I haven't seen in the other sticky stratagems, but let me know if I'm wrong down there. This is a great stratagem. It means that you can use it in your movement phase, so you can start your movement, roll an advance, or roll an advance to shoot, and then run off an objective, still sticky it, and then continue on doing your business. That's a lot better than in the command phase, I think, in my opinion. You can even move onto or advance onto an objective and then sticky it in one go, which is nice. It means you don't have to live to your next command phase, which is really powerful. Cool. All right. Stratagems part 2. Right. I quite like the stratagem. It's basically 1 CP, your shooting or fight phase. You get +2 to your strength characteristic of ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit, and 1 to the strength characteristic of melee weapons equipped by Tyranid Warriors or Wing Tyranid Prime models in your unit. So basically, you get +2. It basically reads +2 range strength for 1 CP. Now, you can obviously get +1 strength melee weapons. Okay, that's fine. They can put the Wing Tyranid Prime up to strength 8 because you get +1 for your detachment rule anyway, or for being in Synapse. But +2 range strength is actually a little bit better than it sounds on paper. What do exocrines really struggle with? Well, being kind of anti-tank, don't they? Well, exocrine can now go up to strength 10, which means that it wounds rhinos on 3s, so that's +2 to wound against a rhino. Against a lot of tanks, that's +2 to wound because you're going to be wounding on probably 5s to maybe 4s, or +1 to wound in that case. So anything around that strength 9 breakpoint, +1 to +2 to wound. Anything at strength 10, well, toughness 10 breakpoint, then it's +1 to wound. Really nice. I thought of some other combos. The Acid Fix, the Sprayer, goes to strength 8. It's kind of nice. And then the Warriors go from strength 8 on their Barb Stranglers, and then they go to strength 10 on their Venom Cannons. And I think this is the best Warrior build loadout. So it's got to be something that you've probably seen quite often. It means that builds that previously kind of struggled within the anti-tank department now suddenly have a stratagem that you can use to get a bit more bang for your buck. It's kind of nice. I don't know what the rupture cannon goes to, but some very large number. Cool. 1 CP, really nice as well. Cool. Parasitic payload, nice. Your shooting phase, 1 Tyranid Warriors with ranged bioweapons. Okay, great. We really want to build around Tyranid Warriors with ranged weapons, so this is a good one. Until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have the Ignores Cover ability. Sweet, that's really good. Even if the stratagem was just 1 CP, you get Ignore Cover for a turn, that's great. That would be really good. because we want to shoot anyway. After your unit has resolved shooting its attacks phase, select one enemy unit hit by one or more of those attacks. Until the end of the turn, models in that unit cannot have the benefit of cover. Nice! So you get the Hellhound ability where you can shoot something, strip cover, and you can even get ignore cover in your own weapon. So one thing you might do is, after your unit has resolved the attacks phase, select on one enemy unit hit by one or more of those attacks. Okay, so what I was about to say is you could split shoot into something and then shoot one or two little guns somewhere else, hope to get a hit, which you probably should, hopefully, and then you get ignore cover on the other unit as well. So then you might have your exocrines looking down at something, but now you're hitting with AP3 ignore cover. Pretty sweet. This is probably one of the best stratagems, I think, printed in the new index. Something that you're going to use basically every single turn. And actually, well, I'll do the recap in a bit here. All right, Restorative Impulse, 1 CP, 1 Tyranid Warriors unit from your army below starting strength. You can return 1 destroyed model, excluding characters. It's tough. As I said, it's kind of tough to say whether or not this is going to be good. It depends on how durable the Tyranid Warriors are and how durable you can make them. I've got a build that makes them quite durable, so it's difficult to say whether this will be good. Obviously, in an attrition-based matchup, that's pretty good. And in a matchup where you want to be on your opponent's objectives, that's also going to be quite strong. It is locked to your command phase, unfortunately. So you can't do it in your opponent's command phase. Difficult to say if this will be good. It depends on how much CP you're going to burn through the army. I could see this not being used that often because you're going to be using your other strats a lot more often. Okay, cool. Now, next up, we've got a defensive stratagem, which is great. One of the things I realized about a lot of the other detachments and new detachments when they come out is that they either have all offensive stratagems or they don't have a great defensive stratagem. Now, in a shooting meta, you obviously want a defensive stratagem to use. So it's good that we have one here that's actually usable. This is also 1 CP. In your opponent's shooting phase, just after an enemy unit has selected as targets, you select 1 Tyranid Warrior unit from your army that was selected as one or more of the attacking unit's attacks. Great. If you selected a Tyranid Warrior unit, select 1 Endless Multitude unit in addition. That is not battle shocked and within 6 inches. Okay. Now, if they shoot you with greater strength than your toughness characteristic, subtract -1 to wound. So a lot of the times, that's just going to be straight up -1 to wound. Okay. Now, if you're like me, you immediately went and said, okay, that sounds really good because then you can put -1 to wound on 20 termagants, which is really, really powerful. Unfortunately, this stratagem I don't know why they did this, but this stratagem only triggers when they target your Tyranid Warrior unit. So if you have your termagants in the open and you have your warriors in the open, or one, maybe you've strung one out to hold an objective, and like for example, you could this is a combo on a side note. You could advance onto the middle objective and then sticky it in your movement phase, and then you could get shot off that, restorative impulse back onto it to hold it sticky again. Pretty sweet play. Let's say, for example, you want to do a play like that, and then you wanted to have your 20 termagants strung out and do something else. All your opponent would have to do is declare shots into your termagant unit first, and then you wouldn't be able to use the -1 to wound on them only until your Tyranid Warrior unit was declared as an attack. So not as good, but Tyranid Warriors are going to be a build around in this detachment, and if you kind of remember 5-up and run Warriors with Transhuman, they were quite strong back then. This is a 9th edition, a Leviathan. So this is a little bit of a herald back to that. So it's quite interesting. So I'm going to go click back here for a second. Stratagems. If we look through all the strats, 1 CP, 1 CP, 1 CP, 1 CP, 1 CP, 1 CP. Okay, great. And they're all kind of at the A minus bar, which is really good. A lot of these strats you could use all the time. For example, sticky an objective, run onto something, sticky an objective. Great. You could, unfortunately, the Winged Tyranid Prime doesn't gain the Tyranid Warriors keyword, because then you could put it with a Gargoyle unit, and then you could sticky an objective with a Gargoyle unit. But at the same time, you could put 3 Warriors out, stick one out, sticky an objective in the middle of the board. They would have to commit something to it, and then you could regrow back onto it, for example, maybe. Quite good. Synaptic Amplification is just reroll 1s to hit and wound. Okay, that's fine. This is plus strength, which could be +2 to wound situationally. You could use plus strength, and you could also use reroll hit and wound rolls of 1. Nice. Then we've got Parasitic Overload, which is just straight up ignore cover, then strip cover from something else. Really good. And then Synaptic Shield, which is good on Warriors, which we like. And then the Restorative Impulse, which I think is probably one of the worst ones. Now, if these stratagems weren't locked to Tyranid Warriors, they would be very, very, very good. However, they are all locked around Tyranid Warriors, and that is the fundamental build round. So that's the drawback of it, really. Okay, cool. So I've got a little example list that I thought, okay, what can we do to, straight up go play this detachment? And to be honest with you, I was kind of surprised at how much stuff you get. Because I thought after doing the back end of this list, I wasn't going to have many points to play with, but I was a little bit surprised here. Okay, so this is kind of how I've done it. Okay, we've got Hive Tyrant for just advance and shoot, and that's because the rest of our back end is going to be 3 Exocrines, a Maleceptor, and a Tyrannifex. I'll get to Psychophage in a bit. So just having access to advance and shoot means that your opponent has to respect your threat angles so much more than what they previously had to. If you don't have advance and shoot, for me, it means that your opponent can just map out where you can move exactly, and it becomes very easy to play around after that. Whereas if you could potentially move 10 instead of 6, it makes that a lot harder. Now, so he is quite expensive though, but 235, we're just going to suck it up and play him. He also gives lethal hits as well, which is kind of nice if you strip cover and have lethal hits with the Warriors. We've got the Nero Tyrant. I've played for the 10-point upgrade in this one. Sorry, I haven't listed it, but this list does afford the 10-point upgrade, so he can join. Joining 1 Tyranid Warrior unit, +1 to hit, +1 strength, stacking flamer. Oh, plus strength, stacking flamer. Okay, we've got 10 Gargoyles and 10 Horngaunts. Early primary denial play. That's all good. That's what we like. A little unit of 3 Tyranid Warriors can go sticky something really early on, jump onto your expansion objective, sticky it, die. Okay, everything's fine. Got the Biovore. I don't really know if we need the Biovore here. We could definitely play without it, perhaps, because we've got the sticky objective now, but he's a pretty good all-round. A Lictor, just for the lone op and infiltrate. Then we've got 1, 2, 3 units of 6 Warriors, and they're going to have 2 Venom Cannons, 2 Stranglers, and 2 Death Spitters. These guys are going to be our primary way of playing the mid board. They're going to be holding our objectives, contesting our opponent's objectives, applying a decent amount of ranged pressure, but they're going to be backed up by 3 Venom Thropes, which give them stealth, and so it's -1 to hit from ranged, and then they're also going to be always benefit from cover. So kind of gives them as a pseudo 3-up save, so to speak. And we're going to play these guys mainly from ranged. And then when we need to dive on our opponent's objectives to flip them, that's what we're going to do. If we play them from ranged also, we can use the restorative strat, so we can get a little bit more distance on our movement, so that we can potentially make a charge a little bit easier. Now, Warriors have 50mm bases, and if you have a squad of 6, you can respawn 2 inches, and then a 50mm base, so it's basically 4 inches of movement there. Okay, 3 Venom Thropes, like I said, -1 to hit. Then we've got 3 Exocrines, of course. I put the Maleceptor in here because it's pretty hard to go wrong with the Maleceptor. The Tyrannifex you can run with the Rupture Cannon, which I probably would. And then we go Psychophage. Now, the Psychophage is a little bit weird, but what we want to do with the Psychophage here, I think, is run it with the Warriors so that you've got a kind of Bulgrin-esque Warrior, right? You've got a 5-up Invan with a shooting platform, with a 6-up Feel No Pain, and then you've got a -1 to hit and always cover on them on top of that. Obviously, they don't have the half damage, which is a big part of that, but the 6-up Feel No Pain on a 3-wound model can really push some of the damage characteristics there. And for 130 points, you're now getting 6 Warriors that have pretty okay output. If you can move, shoot, charge something, and flip an objective, that's great for 130 points. But they're going to be toughness 5, 3 wounds, hopefully -1 to hit, 5-up Invan, maybe 6-up Feel No Pain on top of that, with some like support stratagems on top of that as well. So yeah, I mean, I think they're pretty reasonably priced. They just don't have a lot of damage. But if you think about it, you still get 18 Warriors here, 3 Exocrines, Maleceptor, and the Tyrannifex, and you still get the Hive Tyrant. So you get that kind of classic Crusher Stampede, kind of Synaptic Nexus package behind it as well. You don't get the Invasion Fleet package where you get like Old One Eye, for example. But, the Warriors are actually pretty good in combat. And that's, if you get those big turns where you can move, shoot, charge, flip an objective, that's actually quite strong. They can fall back and charge as well, which is super reasonable as well. Alrighty, there we go. I'm not 100% sure about the list, obviously. That was just like my first impressions. I haven't played a game with it yet. But what I did kind of think was that this was a detachment that was probably worse than either Crusher Stampede. In the singles meta, I think it's slightly worse than Crusher Stampede, slightly worse than Synaptic Nexus, and then slightly worse than Invasion Fleet as well. Now, I think all those attachments are pretty close to one another, actually, in reality, when you think about a singles meta. But it definitely has some play to it. Like Tyranids always have play all around, and we just need to test whether or not the Tyranid Warrior package with the range loadout is really going to be good enough to play and has enough play after the meta shakes up after the balanced data slate. I could definitely see it. So it's definitely something to look out for. OC3 on objective is going to be really hard to get around, and it's still got pretty good secondary play with a good amount of assets on top of that as well. Alrighty, hope you guys enjoyed. Remember, check out the rest of the channel, and I'm going to click it to the outro.
Thank you for listening to the 40k Fireside. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, drop us a comment, check out the YouTube members area, and we look forward to seeing you again next time by the Fireside.